Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Let's begin the day with charity. Charity, the charity box. Here we have our money. Put our money in the charity box. There we go. In the merit of this charity, should protect our soldiers, should return all of the prisoners. There should be world peace and prosperity. All the evil people should transform to be good people, according to the Torah. Here we go. Charity saves from death and from things that are less severe than death. Let's hope that our charity does the job. All right, now we learned yesterday about what happens nowadays when the Holy Temple is not here. And what happened when it was here? What are we missing? So the Rebbe explained that when the Holy Temple was here, we were brothers to God. And that's what the sentence is talking about. Let's bring the sentence in the Song of Songs by King Solomon. King Solomon wrote a beautiful psalm, which is called like the poem of poems, the Song of Songs. Here it goes. Let's see. See how it goes like this. 1 second, 1 minute. There we go. All right, here we go. 8th chapter. Song of Songs is 8 chapters long. Right. I hope everybody can see this. Can you see this? Let's do this again. Here we go. Here we go. And let's go like this. Here we go like this. Good. Okay, so here we have Song of Songs. Ready? Mi yitenecha ka'achli. Who would only make it that you are a brother to me? When we were brothers. This is the Jewish people speaking to God. Speaking to God. It also could be the other way, but the point is because we were equal. And in the time of the Holy Temple, us and God were on equal footing. God was in the world, in the Holy Temple, and we were in God's realm, because that was the Holy Temple was God's realm. So God brought himself down, so to speak, like it was on Mount Sinai, but it was in a permanent way. And when the Jewish people go into the Holy Temple and they served God, they had love of God. So God reflected this love back. So it was like two brothers. It says, Yonik Shidei Imi. It says, nowadays, we don't have the Holy Temple and we're not like brothers to God. And this is, by the way, symbolized by the two statues that were on the ark. And the ark, there were two statues facing each other. The ark, that symbolizes the relationship between God and the Jewish people. We were like two brothers. And nowadays, the temple has been destroyed. And we're waiting for the third temple. But meanwhile, we've been waiting for a long time, almost 2,000 years. Meantime, what do? We're also like brothers. Yonik Shdei Imi. It says, nurturing from the breasts of my mother, said the Rebbe, that's referring to the Torah. When the Jewish people learn the Torah, we are also like brothers. Both of us are nurturing from the Torah. God also, when the Jewish people learn the Torah, so God, it says, learns together with them. Then we said, I have found you outside. Yesterday we discussed this. This is talking about the working men. Working men. People that work, they can't sit and learn Torah all the time nowadays. They can't sit and learn Torah. They can't simulate that same unity that was in the temple of being brothers. They are outside and they're working. It says the Rebbe, nevertheless, I will kiss you, gam lebuzoli. I will kiss you. The Jews that work in the world, that's really the main purpose, is to use the Torah in order to what's called elevate the sparks in the world, elevate the units of meaning, which are in every item in the world, to use the world for what God told us to. Despite opposition, despite tests, despite difficulties, that's being in the world. The person that sits and learns Torah doesn't have any real true difficulties, except it's difficult to understand. But he hasn't got, nobody's tries to embarrass him. There's no peer pressure. There's no this, right? And if there is, it's very minimum. But being in the world, as the world is full of competition, full of this, and being in the world, that's what it means. Kiss me. God says, I will kiss you. This is a tremendously high level of being in the world, serving God, and using the world to serve God. Being honest with your money, etc., etc. Okay, then it says, I will conduct you and bring you to the house of my mother. What does this mean? We didn't explain this yet. We're going to explain it. Talamdeni, and teach me. I will give you to drink from wine, spiced wine. Masis rimoni, from some sort of, I don't know, the pomegranate wine or pomegranate elixir or something. Okay, that's what we're learning about now. So in the time of the Holy Temple, we and the Jews were on equal footing. Now the temple is destroyed. We still can be, by means of learning Torah, and even by working in the world the way that God wants. Do business in the world, to use our money, to use our family, to treat everything the way exactly that God wants. Because that's being outside. What does it mean? I will bring you to the house of my mother and learn Torah. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go. Ready? Yes. 1 second. Okay, so it says, I will find you outside. That's referring to working men, that they raise the sparks. That's what we did yesterday. That's what it means. I will find you outside. Let's make this bigger. Why doesn't it get bigger? Why not? Why not? Enlarge this. Oh, press the wrong button. Here we go. Oh, here it goes. Here it goes. That's what it means. I will find you outside. That even the working men, people that work that cannot learn Torah all day, can find God b'chutz, outside. Because by means of their work and dealing with the world, dealing with people, dealing with products, dealing with disappointments, dealing with frustrations, dealing with temptations, being in the world, by means of this, as mitalim, they elevate the sparks when they say that God is one, when they pray 3 times a day, and they still maintain their unity with the creator of the world. V'kol Yisrael, and all the Jewish people, mekayimim zu, they all do this. What do you mean they all do this? Every Jew can say the first line of Shema Yisrael. The Dina, there's a law in the Talmud, which is the Parsha Rishon of Kriya Shema, the first paragraph of Kriya Shema. You're supposed to think about what you say. And according to one opinion, that's the main opinion, but according to all opinions, the first sentence, Shema Yisrael, you have to think about what you're saying. What are you saying when you say Shema Yisrael? Right? You people that are dealing with the world, working in the world, you're not learning Torah all day, which is 99.9% of all the Jewish people. This is Mesirat Nefesh, to give your life, to be willing to give all of your will and your life to God. To remind yourself that God is creating everything, and to remind yourself that God is creating you. And I remind myself God is creating me, and God is creating the whole world. The world is God's world. I have urges and doubts and fears and frustrations and etc. It says that's because I'm looking at the world improperly. I'm forgetting about the oneness of God, and I'm looking at the world from my point of view. If I look at the world from God's point of view, and that's what it means that God is one, means I give myself over, I give my false reactions to the world over to God. That's called Mesirat Nefesh. I give my soul over to God. Which a normal person will think, who wants to give my soul away? What type of a religion is that? So the answer is, it belongs to God. The whole entire soul belongs to God, and God wants you to be here. He wants you to be here. He wants you to be alive. God wants you to be successful. He wants you to be the things, but he wants you to do it on his terms. Not to get nervous, not to lie, not to cheat. You have to do your job, and things will come on their own, so to speak. Let God take care of the future. You just do right now. That's what it means, giving my soul over to God. And every Jew can do this. Be'echad, B'kol Yisrael, all the Jewish people have this level. Sha'av she'ein lo mesirat nefesh, even though that they're not actually giving their lives for God. Yesh lo mesirat nefesh b'kol. Every Jew has potentially, that's what makes a Jew, that he realizes the oneness of God in the world. Good morning, W. Every Jew has the potential to totally give his everything he has to God. Every Jew. And Mesirut Nefesh in this case means not just giving everything you have to God, it means just giving your will. There we go. If so, Hari Masav Matan, the business that he does, Ve'esek, and his working in his job, in his shop, or whatever, this is something like what it says that God, that God possesses, takes possession of the world. Remember we had the question, what does it mean? God takes possession. The world seems to be separate from God. God created it that way. 6 days, it says you should do your work. And the seventh day belongs to God. Shabbos LaHashem. All the rest of the days don't belong to God. It says, no, God made it in a way that it doesn't seem that way. He wants the 6 days of the week to speak, to belong to us. We make the decisions, we call the shots. 6 days of the week, the world seems to be separate from God, and God seems to be separate from the world. On Shabbat, everything goes back into God's domain. We realize that it never really was separate. Everything in the world is a big miracle. Then it says this. Then it also becomes the level of like being a brother, like we said before. Yeshav Yaakov. Okay. Excuse me. Let's go to the next page. Oh, Hine Adarab, even more. Behem Ne'amar, on these Jews that work in the world, it says, "I will kiss you." Look at this Neshikim. The people who sit and learn Torah, they don't have any big challenges. For a person to overcome challenges, God kisses those people. Who has davkos rucha barucha? This is God's clinging of His spirit to our spirit by means of prayer. When we do pray, the prayer of working men is somewhere higher even than the prayers of big Talmudic scholars and big holy people. Why? Because working men, they have to do what's called eskafia. They have to force themselves. Their big enemy is themselves. People who sit and learn Torah, their only big enemy is understanding. They don't understand the Talmud properly, so they go over it again and over it again. Maybe they get a little tired, want to take a break. They want to take that's not difficult to overcome. The thing that's difficult to overcome in the Torah is to understand the Torah. That's the difficulty. But he doesn't deal with the world at all. Exactly the opposite. A person who sits and learns Torah is separate from the world. Says the Rebbe, that's a very nice thing to be separate from the world. That's like the Holy of Holies, separate from the world. Nobody could go in there. Like Shabbat, it's separate from the world. Almost all of the laws of Shabbat are prohibitions. Don't do this, don't do that. Be separate from the world. That's Shabbat. That's Shabbat. The 6 days of the week, we're involved in the world. We're working in the world. And in the 6 days of the week, we can make the mistake to think that we're the boss. 6 days belong to me. Shabbat, that belongs to God. And Shabbat, and also on the prayers of in the weekdays, we realize that no, it's not really so. It's a tremendous challenge. God has sent me into enemy territory. And the purpose is not to destroy the enemy or kill the enemy. It's to transform the enemy. Who is the enemy in this case? The enemy is money, making profit, being successful. Success, that's the enemy. This is preventing me from success. They're going to bring me success. I'm willing to do anything for success. To lie, to cheat, to be afraid. Maybe I won't get it. To be afraid is going to take away my success. Success, everything becomes success. Make up things, anything for success, right? Why is a person willing to do that? To lie, to cheat for success? Why? Success is good. It's a good thing to be successful, but it has to be. God wants us to be successful, but it has to be on His terms. And that's what's called kiss. God kisses us when we give ourselves over to to God and say, I'm going to do all the work, God, and you give me the results, whatever you want to. Therefore, the work I'm going to do is going to be on your terms. Then, when it comes to praying 3 times a day, you take a break from your thinking about the world. You start to think about God, and you realize, hey, my business, my life, everything I have, my success, it really just belongs to God. And God wants me to work. Competition is good. The whole Talmud is filled with competition. The whole entire Talmud is an arguments between different opinions. That's a good thing, competition. God made everybody purposely different. And people want to get the best price, and people want to get the best product. And there's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is when you react to competition in a not Torah way. Right? Like the mafia, right? Somebody else opens up a business, you cut the guy out. You go up to his house with guns. You say, if you want to see your family tomorrow, close your business, right? Or give us 10% or something like that. Good. Maybe it works for a while, but that's not what God wants. That's not what God wants. It says, in order to not do what God wants, that's called eskafia. Eskafia means you have to force yourself. Your big enemy becomes yourself. You have to force yourself not to look at the world from your point of view, from God's point of view. When a person does this, then what's called a new type of light comes from the darkness. The darkness was you were selfish. You only thought about yourself. You didn't see anything except yourself. Light is when you start to think about God and you stop thinking about only yourself. This arouses from a very, very high place. That's what's called, this revelation is only Eino ela bebechinas neshikin. This is kissing. God kisses us like a kiss. When you love somebody very much, you give them a kiss. The dibur, you can't explain it. You can't explain it. It can only be expressed in a kiss. This is expressed only in the, how do you say, the breath of a kiss, etc., etc. Look in another place that explains this in a much deeper way. 1 minute. All right. So that's what it means. I will take you outside and kiss you. Here, what's this? This is 1 minute. Oh, so who is this? W? Oh, very good, W. Good. Okay, then let's go further in the sentence. So we go, Sirah Shem. Ready? Here's the Song of Songs. So what did we just finish explaining? We just explained, right? This is the sentence that is the title of this mimer we're learning, of this. Who will make it that you will be a brother to me? That was when the temple was there. Yonek Shadei Imi, that's a person who sits and learns Torah all day. We also become brothers. Both of us nurture from the same breasts. The breast is Bina, what's called the Torah Shabbal Peh, the Talmud. And I will find you outside. That's the working man. I will kiss you. God kisses the people who are outside working in the world that still do everything the way God wants to. That's even more precious than God. God kisses those people. That's because they force themselves. They have to work on themselves. Okay, next sentence. Now we're going to talk. Anahagecha, I will conduct you and I will bring you to the house of my mother. What does this mean? Let's see. One minute, where is this? Here it goes. Anahagecha, I will conduct you, I will bring you, and I will bring you to the house of my mother. What is this? Says the Rebbe, this is also learning Torah. The house of my mother, we said that's the breasts. We said that's Bina, that's understanding, that's learning the Torah. So we already said that before. He says, no, this is Torah. Kibal Esek, a person who's a businessman who works in the world, has to make his living. Can't sit and learn Torah all the day, but he also has to set times for learning Torah. Even though the main, the most of the time of a person's efforts, that's a working man, is by means of maisa. He actually does things in a skafia. Namely, he has to force himself. I just want to say a good story I heard. There was, I think this was Rabbi Glick, but I don't remember. I'm sorry that I forgot the name. The person happened to be a Chassid Chabad also. He had a big paper factory. And it was, I guess, before the 6-Day War. that he was working in partnership, or he did business with an Arab in Jordan. For years, they had done business with one another. When the 6 Day War broke out, so they stopped relationships with all these countries that are around, and you couldn't go back and forth. You couldn't do it. I guess this lasted a long time. I don't know, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, who knows how long. There was no. Now, this Jewish fellow, he owed money. He owed money to this Arab in Jordan. He owed money to him. No, he could have easily said, you lost the war. You also lost the money. It's not my problem. I can't get over these borders. It's dangerous. But it was a fairly large sum, for those days. I don't know, let's say $5,000, $10,000 in our terms, something like that. And he found some sort of ways that he could give the money over to this person. He did it. I don't know which channels he did it through. Maybe it was through the army. Maybe it was through some or other. But he gave the money. Of course, you had to trust a lot of people on the way that nobody would steal the money. But the whole chain of whatever had happened, he made tremendous efforts in order to pay this person back. And according to the law of the Torah, I don't know if he had to pay him back. I mean, you're not allowed to steal, according to the Torah, even from a non-Jew. You're not allowed to steal. It's forbidden to steal. You can't cheat a non-Jew. You can't cheat anybody. But here's extenuating circumstances, and the person could say, he could make up all sorts of lies, excuses. Listen, I lost it in the war, but he didn't. I'm almost sure it was Rabbi Glick. I think I'm all with this. And he made big efforts, and he got the money back to him. In other words, he didn't want to do anything which was even a little bit, even on the border of going against what God wanted. God wanted, even though he lost a lot of money. But in the end, you don't lose. In the end, if you're honest, somehow or other, it comes back to you. Somehow or other comes back. Maybe it doesn't come back in that way. Maybe in another way. Who knows? Some of the main service is I mean, I don't want to plug, to discourage people, but take the example of Abraham. Here it says in the Bible, God also doesn't want to discourage us. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they worked their whole lives only doing what God wants. And God promised them all sorts of things, and God did not give them what he promised. Your children are going to be like the stars of the sky and like the sand and the sea, and you're going to get the land of Israel is going to be yours. They didn't have children like the stars in the sky and the sand of the sea. They didn't get the land of Israel, right? Abraham didn't get it. Isaac didn't get it. Jacob didn't get it. Joseph didn't get it. Moses didn't get it, the land of Israel. So sometimes you just have to do good because it's good, and you have to trust God. I don't think we have the fortitude. I guess we do, and to serve God the same, to withstand the test that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob said. But we inherited from them. We can't. It says the Rebbe, therefore, the working man in some ways is better than the person who learns Torah all the time. And in some ways, it's even better than the time of the temple. Why? Because in the time of the temple, everything was good. We didn't have to really defy ourselves as much. We see that, unfortunately, that they gave into all sorts of weird, hatred and idolatry and things like that. But it wasn't such a big, constant challenge and surprising challenges all the time, right? You set a time for learning Torah, and all of a sudden somebody calls you, and all of a sudden you have to go somewhere and all of a sudden you're tired, and all of a sudden your car doesn't work, and all of a sudden this happens, and all of a sudden there's rain outside, and it's cold, and it's this, and you get a big business deal, and all of a sudden a million things that you would push aside, which all of these things you wouldn't push aside a business deal for. If you had a business deal, you would go in the rain and the snow and the sleet and the hail, and if the car broke down, you would take a taxi to make a business deal. But to learn Torah, it's not to pray with the congregation. This is therefore, and the people who work all day, when they pray to God 3 times a day and they say Shema with intention, even if it's intention for 5 seconds, that elevates everything they have. That's what's called the God possesses everything. It raises everything back up to God, like Shabbat. The same thing when they sit and they learn Torah. Even working men have to set times for the Torah. Even though the main work, the main efforts that a businessman, that a person who works in a job, right? He works on a job, he works for somebody else, he works behind the counter, he works, even though most of their day is spent in doing things, this is what's called escafia. He has to force himself and to do good and to avoid bad. Has to force himself to not look in places where he shouldn't, and not think thoughts that he shouldn't think. And also he gives charity. He can't sit and learn Torah all day, and he can't pray all the day. But nevertheless, first of all, he has to come, first of all, in thought. Thought, that's sitting, even the businessman. He has to bring God into his thought, into his speech, and into action. How does he do it? First of all, the businessman who only has, let's say, free every day, maybe a half an hour between Mincha and Ma'ariv, right? The rest of the time he has to go to work, and then after that he has to go home, and he has to deal with his family. He has a half an hour free, and then half an hour he can fill it up with Torah and the commandments in a quality way that's higher than anybody else. Okay, let's say how to put God into your thought. Thought and speech, that's setting times for learning Torah. Setting times for learning Torah of a working man. That's the main revelation of kissing. God kisses us, as we said before, when you pray, it says you pray, a working man prays. This is mainly learning Torah. When a person learns Torah, your mouth says the words. God is saying those words with you. It's like kissing you. And therefore, Torah, people who learn Torah all the day, it says, Yonek Shedei Yimi. It says, and we will nurture from the nurturing from the breasts of my mother. This means constantly. Because people who are Talmudic scholars, they work at the Torah day and night. But when businessmen, people who work in business and job, who rak kavios itim, they can only set times for learning Torah once a day, once every other day. And these people, it says, and I will conduct you, I will bring you into the house of my mother once in a while. So that's bringing God into thought and to speech. I'm skipping these. These are commentaries by the Tzemach Tzedek. And just temporarily, I want to skip this because it's not essential for understanding. Okay, next. What does the sentence say after that? There we go. Again. So let's take it from the beginning. First sentence. Who will make you for it should only we will be brothers for a brother to me. That's in the time of the Torah. Yonek Shedi me. Those are people who sit and learn Torah all the time. I will find you outside. That's the working man. I will kiss you. And that's the kisses that God kisses us when a working man, a person that's involved in the world, when he sits down and learns Torah, when he takes time out to pray, that's kissing from God. Then afterwards says, I will conduct you and bring you to the house of my mother. That's talking about learning Torah. That's talking about the working man learning Torah. I will make you drink from wine, of spiced wine. Okay, I will give you the house, I will bring you to the house of my mother. That's the working man when he sets times for learning Torah. I will give you to drink wine, spiced wine, and some sort of elixir of pomegranates. What's that talking about? Let's see. I will give you to drink from the spiced wine. In a yayin, wine, mesamech elokim. This makes people happy. Again, what's the Rebbe talking about? He's saying that King Solomon saw in prophetic vision what was going to be, that the second temple would be destroyed. And this is, in other words, Solomon looked 1,000 years ahead, that the second temple was going to be destroyed and the Jewish people are going to be in exile. We won't be brothers to God anymore, like it was in the time. What can we do? We can sit and learn Torah all the time. What if you can't sit and learn Torah all the time? Then a businessman, he is honest in business, and he also gets inspiration 3 times a day when he prays, especially in the morning and the evening when he says Shema Yisrael. And he sets times for learning Torah once in a while. And then it says, that's what a person like that God kisses, because he's going against his nature. He's transforming darkness into light. Right? The person that sits and learns Torah all the day, he hasn't got much darkness. The person who works in the world, he has a lot of darkness. The world is very dominant, and he has to overcome it. The next sentence says, I will give you to drink. And the end of that second sentence says, I will give you to drink from spiced wine. What's this talking about? The Jewish people, something with God with spiced wine. What is this talking about? Yayin, wine, makes people happy, and it makes God happy. Yayin, wine, that's a sentence. Yayin mesamech Elokim v'adam. It's a sentence in where in the book of what is it? Judges. Yayin, hu bechinas yainol shel Torah. This wine, this is talking about the wine of the Torah. Wine, the alcoholic beverage that comes from the Torah. Shehu bechinat bina. This is understanding. Bechinat Torah shebal peh. This is what we call the oral Torah, the Talmud. Ve'yoto mesameach Elokim. How does it make God happy? Hainu ki Elokim. This is Tzimtzum. This is one of God's names, Elokim, and this is the name of God. How God, so to speak, articulates himself, hides himself. They want to call it, so to speak, limits himself, limits his life. Tzimtzum. The Othelem ve'Esther, that eventually God becomes concealed and hidden. Ve'al yadein, by means of mamshich bebechinas bina, and by means of using our understanding, shehu bechinas simcha, which this is what's joy, gorem gilo yahelam, it causes what's concealed to be revealed. Shelo yastir v'yalim, it shouldn't conceal anymore. When a person is in the world can really get a person down if you misinterpret it. Excuse me. But if you interpret the world properly, you realize that God is always giving us, what's this? Let me see. That God is always giving us what we need. And if we interpret it properly, that'll make us happy. Many times, the only way to interpret things properly is not to get aggravated. Not to get aggravated. Not to let the world aggravate you. In order to do this, you have to have some sort of a mindset. You have to have some sort of a logical framework to interpret what the world is. Take an example. A normal person would not sleep outside in the cold, in the rain. And if there was gunshots, he would run away. He wouldn't run toward but a soldier that he's fighting for his country or is fighting for some higher purpose, he is willing to sleep in the rain and in the cold. And he's willing, when there's gunfire, he runs in that direction. He's going there in order to fight the enemy. He's going to kill the enemy. It's against human nature to do those things. But because he understands the meaning of a situation that he's in, so he interprets it differently, and his actions and his emotions are totally different. Totally different. The same thing is in general. What religion? What does religion say? You do what it says in our book, you go to heaven. Says, oh, heaven, I want to go to heaven. You know what happens in heaven? No, you get all these benefits and you get all these pleasures and you get all these this. You know what hell is? Hell means you go against what I say. You go against what I say, you get hell. What happens in hell? You get pierced and you get burned and you get broken and you go, I don't want that. So that's, all of a sudden you look at the world in a totally different way. the world is like this big sort of, how do you say, Monopoly game or something like that. It was a Pac-Man. They had, you're going, you don't want to take this way, you want to go this way. So that's looking at the world in that type of a mindset. So it makes you crazy. That was the communism made everybody berserk, right? Communism, people were willing to die, they're willing to starve for the sake of the good, for the sake of the people, for the understanding. It also goes according to understanding. But the fact is, there is a true understanding. There's true understanding. Just because there can be a million false religions doesn't mean religion is bad. How do you say you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater? There's some things that are bad ideas and religions, but that doesn't mean that's not true. It says there will be true understanding of the world. That's perhaps the first person to ever have that in the history of the world was Abraham. The first person to really have a true understanding of what reality is Abraham. Adam didn't have it. There were big tzaddikim that came after Adam, but they also didn't have it. They couldn't deal with the world. They had to separate themselves from the world. They were holy people. It says Chanoch and Metushelach, right? Noah. There's Noah, right? He had to build that ark, get away from the world. Abraham got the thing right. What did he do? We're here to transform the world, not just to save ourselves from the world. We're here to transform the world. In order to do that, you have to look at the bad things in an objective way, to know that they're here as a challenge, as an opportunity. He says that's the idea of joy. Joy means when you're happy to be in the world. A soldier, when he goes to fight, right? He goes to fight, they go in with a song. They go into a place of danger that a normal person would cry and run away, and they go in with a song, they're happy. Says that's the whole idea, what it says, that I will make you drink, we say to God, well, I will make you drink my wine. Here it says, it says, I will make you drink from my spiced wine. Okay, we're saying this to God. God is saying this to us. Which one? We're saying both. God, Elohim, that's the aspect of God that he makes himself concealed, that he makes all these difficulties in the world. We can remove all this by having the proper understanding. That's wine. That's the wine of the Torah to understand properly. That's what it means. I will make you drink wine. Spiced wine. It has a good smell to the wine. Smell comes from a very high source. Smell comes from a very high source. We see if a person is unconscious, you give him smelling salts, he wakes up. You call his name, you prick him with the needle, nothing happens. You make him wine, smelling salts, whatever it is, smelling. Some is makif. This arouses what's called the surrounding level of the soul. This is smell is even higher than food. Food also goes into your body, but smell, it says that the soul gets pleasure from it, not just the body. Below a goof, and not the body. Smell, a fragrant smell. That's we're talking about fragrant wine. Because smell is an upper pleasure. It can't be grasped. And smell is something above understanding. It's somewhere from the essence of our soul. Behold, that is the advantage of learning Torah of a businessman. That he has to force himself more than people who sit and learn Torah all the time. Therefore, the learning of his Torah is called yain harekach. It's called fragrant wine. It comes from something that was sharp, but it was used properly. It says because wine, even the wine makes a person drunk. Shubachin pinimis, makes you happy, but there's also reach. It also has a smell, and it arouses your essence. So that means a person that it's just elucidating a working man when he learns the Torah. He sets times for learning the Torah. This is taking the bitterness of the world and transforming it to a fragrant smell. God gets a special pleasure from this. Elohim, God gets a special pleasure, an inner pleasure from that's called the essence of your being, to set times for learning Torah. I know there's people, let's say nowadays, there's more and more Jews, like in Manhattan and big businesses, that there's some Chabad person comes, whatever it is, in the middle of the day, and he gives a class, like for 15 minutes, a half an hour in Talmud. And these working men that they're dealing, big business deals, or they're lawyers, and they have these big cases, they get $1,000 a minute or whatever they get an hour or something like that. And they take a half an hour for learning the Gemara, which they don't get paid for at all. Right? But the idea is that learning Torah, it connects them to the truth. And not only that, it reverses the whole entire the attitude that the world is the most important thing. And God, maybe take it or leave it. Most people leave it. When a person learns the Torah, then it becomes more real. It becomes ingested. And especially when he feels the godliness of the Torah, that's like the fragrance of the Torah. And this is where we're going to take it from tomorrow. And a person that cannot learn at all, and to set times for learning Torah, on him it says, Ma'asis Rimoni. It says that there was the elixir of pomegranates. What does that mean? There's another sentence in Psalms. It says that what's this called? Your cheeks, I guess. Your cheeks are like the pieces of pomegranate, right? Say that to your wife. She's not going to be happy. Your cheeks are like pieces of pomegranate. That's what King Solomon says in the Song of Songs. That what does it mean? Afilu reikanim. Even the empty Jews, they haven't got Torah. They can't sit and learn. Shabach meleim mitzvahs karimun, are filled with commandments. We're talking about the working man that he doesn't go to pray. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. And he maybe a little can't pray, and he can't learn Torah. He just doesn't understand it. He sits down and learns Torah, he goes to sleep. It's not interesting to him. But he can do a commandment. He puts on tefillin even once a day. It says even the empty Jews, they're filled with commandments like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. Hirekanim, that it says that the empty Jews, it doesn't mean that they're rebelling against God. It just means that they don't have Torah, but they're filled with commandments and proper conduct. They're honest. The commandments also arouse this level of the upper pleasure of God. That's also this level of fragrance, because the essence of God is attached to the end. What's the end? Just doing the commandments. That's what it means. Asis rimoni. That's what it means. A fragrant, whatever it is, pomegranates. This also revives the soul. So what did we learn? We learned in the time of the Holy Temple, we were like brothers to God, but now we don't have the temple. So the Rebbe explained there's 4 levels of service of God which simulate the temple. One is sitting and learning Torah all the time. Another one is the working man, that he works in the world and he is honest in business and he prays. Another is a working man that he not only does that, but he sits times for learning Torah. Once in a while, he learns Torah. Once a day, 5 minutes a day, every other day, once a week. He learns Torah. It's tremendously pleasure. That's 3. At the time of the temple, people who learn Torah all the time. Businessmen that they pray. Then we have they pray. Businessmen that they learn Torah once in a while. But the first one, that was in the time of the temple. So we want businessmen, they learn Torah once in a while. And finally, businessmen that they can't pray and they can't learn Torah, but they do commandments. Even one commandment that says this is precious to God. This is, I say, fragrant wine, fragrant pomegranates, it says. So let's go back to the sentence. We have the sentence. Oh, here it is. Who will make you like a brother to me, nurturing from the breast of my mother? That's learning Torah all the time. And Sabachutz, that's the working man that he prays. That's the working man that he also sets times for learning Torah once in a while. And that gives God a command. That's the secrets of the Torah. That also adds secrets of the Torah, the godliness in the Torah. And finally, yain rekach masim. Then there's the fragrant elixir of pomegranates. That's talking about doing the commandments. Good. Now let us continue to.